My name is Elena. I was 32 years old when I sat at a banquet table adorned with imported white orchids, listening to my father give a tearful, booming toast to my older brother's new bride. Around us, 80 of the city's most elite socialites clinked their crystal champagne flutes. My mother was wiping a single, perfectly choreographed tear from her cheek. My brother, Thomas, looked like a king holding court in his custom-tailored tuxedo. But what the guests did not know, and what my brother's new high society in-laws could never have guessed, was that the orchids, the vintage champagne, and the very tuxedo Thomas was wearing were all paid for by my 8-year-old daughter. My parents had secretly sold off her entire trust fund to finance this charade. But as I sat there, quietly sipping my sparkling water and tracing the edge of the heavy manila folder resting in my lap, I wasn't angry. Because the papers inside that folder were about to send my parents to jail and leave my golden child brother entirely homeless. Welcome back to Chronicles of Vengeance. This is the channel where women share stories of family betrayal, quiet strength, and the boundaries they wish they had set sooner. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe because tomorrow I have saved something extra special for you. And wherever you are listening from right now, drop a comment and let me know your city. Now let me take you back to a crisp Tuesday afternoon in September, the day the illusion of my family finally shattered. Growing up, my brother Thomas was the investment, and I was the insurance policy. Thomas was handsome, charismatic, and possessed a reckless ambition that my parents mistook for destiny. They poured every ounce of their energy and finances into him. Private tutors, sports camps, and a fully funded out-of-state university tuition. I was the quiet one. I wore Thomas's oversized hand-me-down sweaters, worked at the local library to pay for my own community college classes, and eventually built a quiet, highly lucrative career as a senior software architect. My husband, Mark, was a good man. He was a pediatric nurse who worked long hours, loved me fiercely, and adored our daughter, Lily. When Lily was just 2 years old, Mark was killed by a drunk driver on his way home from a night shift. The hospital settlement and his life insurance policy left Lily with a substantial sum, roughly $180,000. In the fog of my grief, I wasn't thinking clearly. My parents, who had never offered me a dime in my life, suddenly stepped in. My father, a retired accountant, convinced me that the money needed to be put into a specialized custodial investment portfolio to grow for Lily's college and future. He insisted on setting it up for me. Because I was barely functioning, and because I still desperately wanted to believe my parents loved me, I signed the paperwork making my father a co-trustee of the account. That was my critical mistake. I handed the keys to my daughter's future to a man who only saw money as a way to elevate his own status. But for 6 years, everything seemed fine. I received the quarterly statements. The portfolio grew. I rebuilt my life, bought a small, beautiful home for Lily and me, and kept my distance from my family's endless financial drama. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, like this video. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The drama reached a fever pitch when Thomas got engaged to a woman named Cassandra. Cassandra came from old money, the kind of family that owns horses and names their houses. My parents were terrified of looking inadequate. They promised to pay for the rehearsal dinner, the floral arrangements, and the open bar for a wedding that was ballooning past the $120,000 mark. I knew my parents didn't have that kind of money. 3 years prior, they had nearly lost their own house to foreclosure. I had quietly stepped in, creating a blind LLC that purchased their mortgage from the bank. I allowed them to live there, paying a fraction of their previous mortgage as rent to my company. They were so relieved that they conveniently forgot I was their landlord. They went right back to living beyond their means. A month before the wedding, I went to the bank to deposit a small inheritance check from Mark's grandmother into Lily's portfolio. The teller, a kind woman named Sarah who had known me for years, looked at her screen, frowned, and typed something else. "Elena," she said softly, her eyes darting nervously. "This account was fully liquidated and closed 3 weeks ago. The air left my lungs. I asked her to print the final statements. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and stared at the paper. There it was. My father had exercised his power as co-trustee. He had sold off every single stock, bond, and mutual fund in my dead husband's portfolio. $180,000 gone. I traced the wire transfers. $45,000 to the Grand Plaza Event Hall. $20,000 to Boutique Floral Imports. $15,000 to a luxury car dealership for a down payment on a Porsche Macan, Thomas's wedding gift. My parents hadn't just dipped into the fund. They had slaughtered my daughter's future to buy the illusion of wealth for my brother. Most people would have driven straight to their parents' house and screamed until their vocal cords tore. I didn't. I put the car in drive, went home, made Lily a grilled cheese sandwich, and helped her with her spelling homework. You see, women like my mother and men like my father thrive on your panic. If you scream, you are hysterical. If you cry, you are weak. If you demand answers, they will spin a web of manipulation, telling you that family shares everything and that they intended to pay it back. Confrontation gives parasites the opportunity to negotiate. I was not going to negotiate with thieves. Instead, I took a week off from work. I sat at my dining room table with a cup of black coffee and I built a fortress. I called my lawyer, a ruthless estate attorney named Patricia. I handed her the bank statements, the original trust documents, and the wire transfer receipts. They committed grand larceny and wire fraud, Patricia said, adjusting her glasses. Because this money was legally designated for the benefit of a minor, your father breached his fiduciary duty. It carries a federal mandatory minimum. Draft the police report, I told her. But do not file it yet. I need a few more documents first. I then went to the property management firm that handled the LLC for my parents' house. Because my parents had diverted all their cash to Thomas's wedding, they hadn't paid their rent to my LLC in 3 months. Under state law, a 90-day delinquency allows for an expedited immediate eviction notice. I had the firm draft the papers. Finally, I looked into the title of the new luxury townhouse Thomas and Cassandra had just purchased. Thomas had used the remaining $100,000 of Lily's money for the down payment. Because those funds were acquired through felony embezzlement, Patricia filed a quiet title action and a massive financial lien against Thomas's new home. I put all of these documents, the eviction notice, the property lion, and the drafted criminal complaint, into a single, thick manila folder. The rehearsal dinner was held on a Friday night at a country club that required a membership just to park your car. I arrived wearing a simple, elegant navy dress, holding the manila folder. My mother rushed over to me, her fake diamonds glittering under the chandelier. Elena, dear, I'm so glad you could make it. Doesn't Thomas look handsome? We just want tonight to be perfect. It will be exactly what he deserves, I replied, my voice completely flat. Dinner was served. Filet mignon and lobster tail. Then the toast began. My father stood up, clinking his glass. He spoke for 10 minutes about family legacy, about hard work, and about how proud he was to be able to give his son the start in life he truly earned. When he sat down, the room applauded. I stood up. The room quieted down. My family looked confused. I was the invisible sister. I wasn't supposed to speak. I also have a gift for the groom, I said, my voice echoing slightly in the vast room. And a toast to my parents, because truly, their generosity is unparalleled. I walked around the table and stopped right between my father and my brother. I placed the heavy manila folder on the white linen tablecloth in front of Thomas. Go ahead, Thomas, I said softly. Open it. It's a comprehensive breakdown of exactly how this wedding was paid for. My father's face immediately drained of color. He recognized the logo of the bank printed on the first page sticking out of the folder. Elena, my father hissed, reaching for the folder. This is not the time. Don't touch it, I snapped, the authority in my voice freezing him in place. Thomas opened the folder. He saw the bank statements. He saw the wire transfers. Cassandra, his bride, leaned over to look. What is this? Cassandra asked, her brow furrowing. Thomas, why does this say Lily's trust account? I'll explain, I told the silent room, looking directly at Cassandra's wealthy parents, who were staring at us in horror. My parents sold off my dead husband's life insurance portfolio. They stole $180,000 from my 8-year-old daughter to buy these orchids, to pay for your open bar, and to put the down payment on your new townhouse. Thomas, my mother let out a strangled gasp. Elena, stop it. You're ruining his night. We were going to pay it back. With what? I asked, turning to her. I reached into the folder and pulled out the second stack of papers. I dropped them onto my father's plate, right on top of his lobster tail. You're broke. In fact, you're so broke you haven't paid rent in 3 months. Which brings me to the second part of my gift. That is a 30-day eviction notice. Because the LLC that owns the house you live in, the one that saved you from foreclosure 3 years ago, I own it, and you are being evicted. The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the ice melting in the water glasses. Thomas jumped up, his chair scraping violently against the floor. You put a lien on my house? He yelled, his voice cracking with panic. You bought it with stolen money, Thomas, I said calmly. By Monday morning, my lawyer is submitting the criminal complaint for grand larceny and wire fraud to the district attorney. Enjoy the wedding tomorrow. It will be the last time you wear a suit before you are wearing a jumpsuit. I turned around and walked out of the country club. I didn't stay to watch the fallout, but I heard about it from a very gossipy cousin. Cassandra's parents canceled the wedding the next morning. They refused to align their family name with convicted felons. Thomas was left at the altar, drowning in the debt of a honeymoon and vendor contracts he could no longer pay. As for my parents, the threat of a federal prison sentence works wonders for liquidating assets. To avoid the criminal charges, my father agreed to a binding civil settlement. He surrendered his retirement accounts, sold his cars, and handed over every last piece of jewelry my mother owned. I recovered every single penny of Lily's $180,000, plus legal fees and damages. 30 days later, the sheriff arrived at their house, my house, and escorted them off the property. I sold the house the very next week and put that money into an airtight, irrevocable trust for Lily, one where I am the sole, uncontested trustee. Some people call me ruthless. My mother left me a voicemail from a cheap motel room, crying that I had destroyed the family over just money. But it was never just money. It was my daughter's safety. It was the last piece of her father that she had left in this world. And when you come for my daughter's survival to fund your vanity, you do not get to cry when I burn your kingdom to the ground. If this story reminded you that boundaries are not selfish, and that true strength is quiet, take that as a sign. Do not let anyone treat you like a detour in your own life. Up next, you've got one more standout story right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass this. Just click and check it out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.